Today we got Court McGee on, getting ready to. Actually, it's coming up, right? Crap, it's
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, man.
January 15th.
UFC's going to be fights back. You kind of lose track, of where everybody's at. Let's talk about. So today's it's the Christmas Eve, so 23rd of December. We're doing this.
Yep.
Talk to me about your practices today. They were kind of close together.
Yeah. So I had to change it up this week just because it's like pre-holiday week, and so I my Monday's a real hard practice where I mix conditioning with my next practice is more technical, but I don't know, when it gets this close to the fight, they're a lot of them are live, but basically I had to switch it up. So I had 2 hard practices on Monday, 2 hard practices on Tuesday, and then Wednesday I had sparring, so I wasn't fresh for sparring. And then a day off, and today was I had a mitt session that was real. It was throw double the amount of punches and kicks and knees and elbows that you would throw normally in a round for 4 rounds. And then the 5th round, we used this big, I call it the cake pad. It's a big, a lot of Mexican boxers use it, but it's this big, big shield. And so you work with pressure. And so I have to work angles back and forth. And then when he backs up, I got to pressure him and move my head a lot. So it was lots of punches and kicks. And then I had an hour and a half to get to my next practice. And we mix up the practice with, we use this med ball, a 20-pound med ball, and you throw it back and forth between you and your partner. You throw it back and forth. Sometimes you throw it back and forth with sprawls. You can do a squat, throw, and a sprawl, a wood chopper. So the wood chopper, so you slam it really hard and then you sprawl, and you got to beat your partner back. And then you go live on the wall with a fresh guy. And the idea is sometimes you're against the wall, and the idea is to get off the wall, turn them onto the wall, and you have to work a takedown or defense. And I had a guy named Jason South. He's 6'2", 6'3". I think he's 18-3 as a pro. He's recently retired. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's just tall and lanky, and he's just a gnarly, hard guy to take down. And even when you take him down, he's like I think he's had his black belt for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years in jiu-jitsu. So I don't know. It's I had him, and then I had Ramsey Nijim, who's a good D1 wrestler with lots of pressure. And then another guy, his name's Nate Kersley, who's another D1 wrestler. And they're both tall, about, I don't know, 5'11". So it's you go live on the wall, and then you push your conditioning with the ball and the sprints. So you're punching. So your arms are fried and shit. And then the guy on the wall's fresh, and you can't lose position, man, because if they take you down on the cage, it's like in the fight, in the second, third round, you don't want to be stuck in a bad spot.
Right.
So I don't know. 2 of my conditioning practices throughout the week are mixed with where you lose fights. So against the cage or getting up off your back.
Okay.
I use a Concept 2 rower. And then I have my other days where I do striking, where I'm not distressed before I go into it, so I'm fresh. And then I have live wrestling days and live grappling days, and then other days where it's just conditioning. So good mix.
Well, you took Thursday off. What about Saturday now? It's Christmas Eve, so what's going to happen Saturday?
So I'll grapple tomorrow.
Okay.
So I've got a group of guys. I've been training now for just over a year at this guy Rob Handley's gym, and he's kind of Flavio Bering's top guy.
Okay.
Does all their and he's a high level gi jiu-jitsu guy, and so I've really I've trained in 4 different guys in jiu-jitsu, and the first guy was a gi jiu-jitsu guy, and I made it to my purple belt with him, and then I switched and went to a different gym. He'd changed or something happened, and I went to this other guy, and he was a Brazilian guy, black belt, and I started training under him, and I made it to my 4 stripes on my blue belt, and then I moved to a whole new city when I got married, and I started training under this guy Griffin Renault, who's a black belt, but the style of jiu-jitsu that he did was without a gi.
Okay.
And so you don't really like get a belt, but they would graduate you, and then he left, and the guy that was his black belt, I trained under Jason Mertlick, who was my coach for a long time.
Yeah.
But I never really got time to train in a gi consistently to where I could, graduate through the system, and I've always wanted to do it. So I found this guy, and he's a high level black belt. He's going for his 5th stripe. He's been a black belt for like, I don't know, almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And he has a lot of really, really good guys under him. And so I just was like, more so for fun and for, I don't know, graduating through the system. It's like, so I've had the chance to train with him steady for a year. So that'd be my Saturday, and I'll drill for like 20, 25 minutes, 1 or 2 things specifically. And then I'll get maybe like 3 8-minute rounds in with
Wow.
3 different black belts, and just,
Jeez.
and then I'll finish with my short conditioning. A lot of times I like to, Sammy Henson, the wrestler.
Yeah, of course.
So I use a couple of his Airdyne or assault bike conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's like a 2-minute all-out sprint. Sometimes it's a Tabata sprint. Sometimes, and I have to hold it at a certain pace.
Yeah.
And so I finished with that. So it's under 4 minutes or under 5 minutes, and it's just like you want to quit, 2 minutes into it, and that's what I finished my week with.
Yeah, I know those Sammy Henson workouts really well.
Yeah.
Dude,
I was next to Sammy. I was next to Chuck on the assault bike on a Friday, and we had to finish. It was like an all-out sprint, so we had to keep the RPMs over, like they couldn't drop under 80. But the idea was to get it over 100 for the first however long you could hold it. And like a minute and a half into it, we were almost done. Like I looked over and I saw Chuck's because I didn't know how fast it was supposed to be going. And I was probably I was just over 80. And he dropped like to 79 RPMs. And Sammy like smacked him on the back and was like, "Do you want to fucking lose? Are you training to lose?" And like, dude, he's like, "Get it over 80." And I was like, "Fuck, I'm not dropping under 80. I'm not dropping under," and I got done, dude. And oh man, the lung burn. And I'm just like, shit, man, this is a whole new level. And that, I don't know.
It's tough. Yeah. For the people at home, Sammy Henson is a Clemson University national champion. He won the Worlds and then took a silver medal in the Olympics. One of my good friends, I trained with him. He's smaller than me, but we trained next to each other for a long time. And he put me through his conditioning workouts. He was known as like an amazing conditioned athlete when he get out there to compete. And his conditioning drills are absolutely incredible for what he does.
Yep. And I still use him. I had a chance to train with him on multiple occasions. And he would just set up little game plans for shots. Because he didn't know a lot about MMA fighting, but he knew enough. And I'm like, hey, man, this guy has a good guillotine when I shoot in. So he would have me switch to like a blast double or a single leg where I drive him to the cage, get him in a single, pull him to a body lock because I'm good in a body lock position. And you're a little safer there.
Yeah.
Where if you hang onto a single leg, they can elbow you and they can punch you. And dude's got good balance, and especially against the cage. So he helped me with a lot of those things, but finishing with those short conditionings, I do it twice a week, and I've been doing it my whole career, and it's just like, so.
Speaking of Chuck, you guys were just in Hawaii a little bit ago with Pitmaster.
Yep.
I kept hitting up John. I was like, hey, if you get a free minute, let's go grab coffee, because I was just down the street. And he was like, I hit you back in like 20 minutes. Okay, I hit you back like tomorrow morning. Okay, I'm like, dude, you're jammed. Like, I'm watching you on. Everybody that was there, I pretty much follow on social network. And I was watching all the photos come up. I'm like, dude, you're jammed up. You don't have a time to breathe. You guys had to do a hard training session. Now, did you get another belt as well when you were up there?
Yes. Okay. So he graduated to my 4th degree black belt under John.
Okay.
And it was just, dude, it was really cool. But so it was kind of like, hey, babe, like we're going to go on vacation, but the first 3 days is going to be belt testing. And the last day was a ceremony, but it's like you had to run up this Wilhelmina, and then we did this conditioning workout after and technique workout, and then we went to the Palolo boxing gym.
Yeah,
we basically like sparred. Everybody sparred, and then we did head to head where you just hit body shots for like 25 or 30 minutes, and it was just It
Wow.
was nasty. And then we rested. Then the next day was like some crazy hike. And then we did like all this technical stuff, like, I mean, it was still hard, but I don't know. And then, I don't know. We just he switched it up, and then we did the belt ceremony the last day. We did a hike and then a belt ceremony. And
And didn't you guys also give John another belt too?
yeah, so we belted. So he was already grandmaster, but we just like we gave him a next, like his next belt.
Okay.
I don't know. It was just like and we got him an Omega 007 watch from a couple of.
Wow.
Yeah, and we all pitched in and got him this crazy cool watch that he loved. He
Yeah,
talked
no
about it for
kidding.
a number of years. So
Jeez, that's awesome. That's great.
yeah,
So did Chuck wasn't testing for another belt then at that time. He was in there more being the senior student, right?
he was, but then like John surprise tested him, and so
Oh,
he tested all of us. So all of us belted, me, Glover, Chuck, and some of the other black belts. Rick Metzger was like one of their first like training partners and first guys. So it's like I'm getting notes right now. What to do? Go outside the left foot. Go outside. John's texting me.
yeah, yeah. I was assuming what was going because I could see your eyes moving down in front, so I know.
Yeah, yeah. That's how he does it, man. He's
Yeah.
like, I got a feeling you need to do this and this and this. So so he graduated him, to his 8th degree. So he's just
Wow.
2 degrees under grandmaster, and he's been with him for, I don't know, like 31 years or something like that. But dude, it's cool, man, to be a part of. Like, I feel like I'm a family, like a family member.
Yeah.
We all keep up with each other, and like, I don't know, man. It was a really cool experience, and like technically, that was my first. The 4 days after that was our first vacation since we've been married for the last 8 years. Like, we never went on a honeymoon, and I was chasing down the dream of fighting for a living, and I
Yeah.
quit my job October 26, 2007, and then I didn't make it onto the Ultimate Fighter until like January of 2010.
Oh
So
yeah.
there was like a 2.5 year period where I worked at the gym, taught classes, did plumbing side work, and then I ran a supplement shop. And
Wow.
so I was like struggling to make ends meet to try and make this thing work, and make it to where I could, do it for a living.
Well, speaking of struggling, I actually was at Ben Saunders, your opponent. I was actually at his last fight. I reffed that night. Big John McCarthy actually had that fight. I think I had the fight before, or 2 fights before. It was my last assignment for the night.
Yeah.
So I actually saw his fight, and
Yeah.
he was in the UFC, gets cut. He's got to go get high profile matches to get back in again. He faces Jacob Volkman. He armbars him, easy fight. Looking at it, I mean, obviously a lot of training and stuff goes into it. Now he's back in the UFC.
Yep.
Does this make him a lot more dangerous because he knows how hard it is to be outside the UFC?
I don't know. I mean, well, you kind of look at it like the mental side of it, and a lot of people say that the mental side of it is the most important. And when you got a fire under your ass, it's true, I think. But also too, you look at guys that like I've seen guys too where they've made it and they don't have anything else to prove. And then for me, it's kind of changed to where like I'm competing because I want to compete. And so it's like, and I've got to this place where I don't have one specific gym, but I have all my training partners. And like, I've had better training partners this last year than I've had in a long time, all in the same area. And so it's like, I have to travel a little more, but man, I've got like really, really good high level jiu-jitsu guys, big bodies, little guys. I've got all these Division I wrestlers. And then I have 2 boxers, man. And one of them, like, this dude is like incredible. Like, he touches me up, and I've never really been like, I mean, I had one time I went out in LA and I went to this boxing gym. It was boxing only. And I got touched up by this one guy, and I can't remember his name. It was like Darius or something, but he had 30 pro boxing matches and 200 amateur fights. So it was kind of like, And I had never, at that time, I had like 4 amateur boxing matches, but only one of the guys had amateur experience and the other one that was in a tournament. So it was other guys just like me that had never boxed before. And then I fought professionally, and so I couldn't fight amateur anymore. And so my next boxing match was scheduled professionally, but the other guy was his first professional boxing match too, but he had 60 amateur fights.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I got my head knocked off. I won the fight, but I had to like tie up with the guy. And then as soon as we would break, then I would hit him with 1 or 2, and then I would tie back up, and the ref would come over and I'd break. So I had to like figure out a way to win. I couldn't outbox him,
Right.
but I practiced at getting better. And so now it's like this Juan Jr. and Juan Sr. I get to work with Juan Sr. once a week, twice a week. And I get to work with his son, who his amateur record has to be like 80-4 or something like that. I mean, he's just outstanding. He went to Wild Card. Wild Card wants him. But he lives here, and his girlfriend's here, and he's working here, and he's like 19, 20 now. But he's 6'1", 6'2", tall, lanky, and he's just
wow.
So I get to work with that guy all the time. So it's like I feel like my boxing's getting better, and I've got a really solid jiu-jitsu guy, and so I've been working with that. And then all my teammates are these D1 guys, you know, that have been wrestling their whole life. So it's like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have anything to prove, but I'm fighting because I want to fight. And there's been times when I've fought and I didn't want, like I was, you know, it like had changed, like it became my job, and it was like, fuck, man, I'm not ready because my shit's broke. But you got to go out and compete because this is what you're doing, man. You went all that time. It's time to just either go or don't go. But once you commit, you have to be all
was
there.
a lot of it financial too? Where you're like, I haven't fought in 4 months. I got no money coming in. I got to get back to work. I have to go fight.
Yeah. Well, and in my close network of people and because of recovery and putting this recovery first above everything, it's like I've had these. One of my closest friends is my accountant, and I met him in recovery.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been paying myself $30,000 a year, so that's what I live off of. No shit.
Got you. Okay. No,
it was kind of, when I first made it, my bills, you know, he was like, well, what do you spend a month? And this is with a wife and a son and insurance and health insurance for them and whatever else. It was like, well, $2,100 a month. He said, okay, we'll pay $2,500 a month to yourself and put the other $300 or $400 aside into a prudent reserve. Build up a 6-month prudent reserve, and then anything on top of that, then you can, you know, if you want to, you know, make purchases or go out to dinner or whatever you want to do, then you can do that. And I've always kind of stuck with that. And I grew up with a dad that was like that. So, I mean, it's like I've always been really conscious of what I spent, and I've always had to work for my money. So I kind of like, I set it aside. And so even though maybe one night I'd make 50 grand, it's like for me, that 50 grand, 15% of it goes to taxes. Right off the bat, I transferred into a savings account to pay taxes the next year.
Yep.
And then I pay myself every month. So when people would be like, oh, you made 50 grand, I said, nah, man, I made 2,500 this month, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was like, I have a business, you know, a business credit card and like whatever for expenses for the business, I can run up on that. So I spend a little bit more, but you know, when I had that 2-year layoff, it's like I had my 6-month prudent reserve, but I had to, you know, I'd been speaking for about 3 years, public speaking as a professional speaker. And so that was supplementing the income. I did a couple of seminars. I did a few little things, but it was very challenging. Like it got to a point where I almost wiped out my 6-month prudent reserve, was really having a challenging time and thinking, okay, I need to either go all my eggs in the speaking basket or I need to go back and fight. And thank God I had, you know, John there, because he was like, dude, if you're not fully committed, don't go back and fight. I mean, I'll introduce you to Tony Robbins. That guy will help you make it, you know, and it's like, so I don't know, man, I said a little prayer, dude. And I was just like, you know what, this is, I'm going to fight. And I still had it, went back to the practice, got my ass kicked for like 2 weeks. And I was like, I still want to go back. So I'm in, and called him up, called Joe Silva, got the medical release. And then I had 3 fights in 8 months.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, everything turned around, but also too, I've spoke almost 40 times this year.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And so, and the gratification I get from that is just incredible. So it's like, because I share my story, and I use an ESPN documentary, that little Sports Center piece that's about 10 minutes long for an introduction. But man, I've spoke. It's like I really like speaking at high schools. But I speak at high schools. I've spoke for the Hope program in the state penitentiary, helping offenders parole effectively. I've done juvenile centers, juvenile delinquent centers. I did the entire juvenile justice system. I mean, like it.
Wow.
So it just kind of went some pro bono. I've done about 10 pro bono, but every time I do that, it seems to come back tenfold. But I started speaking, started working on my delivery. Met this guy who's a professional speaker and a writer, and he's putting himself through college, who's also in long-term recovery and about my same age. And we, he's like, I kind of hired him, I guess you could say, kind of as a publicist, like takes all those emails. Because when people come to my website, they see the speaking, and then they send me an email, hey, we would like to book you. Had some cards made, passed out cards, and then all signs autographs or whatever, and sometimes if I do, like a school or something, I'll bring my Crusher t-shirt, this t-shirt, and 10% of the proceeds goes to the Crusher wrestling program.
Okay.
And, I'll make a few extra bucks, selling some t-shirts, and then my fee for speaking for wherever I'm speaking at. And it's just like, and I get a lot of gratification from it. Not to mention, I've since I started, I was thinking, what's my exit strategy? And, it's like that's just one of those important things because I have a family, and I've always kind of thought ahead. I never thought I'd make it this far, but here I am. So what am I going to do with it?
What about Old Abe?
Old Abe is killing it, man. So, right? Yeah, dude.
Old Abe is Court's beard company. So obviously, I use the product as well. It's a great beard company, man. Like I really enjoy the products. And he gave me some stuff. Court sent me some stuff. I was like, hey, look, if you like it, talk about it. If you don't like it, tell me what's wrong, but just don't do it publicly. And I was like, look, I'm going to tell you right now, whatever. If I like it or don't like it, I'm going to say it publicly. So you're going to find out. About 30 seconds after it came, I got my package opened. I got the night before I opened it. I was all out of beard stuff. Had to use all of it in order because I was getting in the shower. I immediately text Corey. I was like, oh my God, this stuff is crazy. It's so good. So it's awesome stuff. I'm glad it's doing so well.
It is. It's almost to a point where it's like it's hard to keep up with, which is great.
Good.
So it's like, well, it's and I'm not like putting down the Reebok deal, but it made it more challenging to get outside endorsements while I'm a professional athlete as the UFC. And so I had to but I was told this. I mean, the day I left the Ultimate Fighter, Dana White said, know your business. And I mean, straightforward, know your fucking business, know everything about it, and everything you gain here when you leave, you have to use to make money after you're done. And so he was really honest with that portion of it. So once that deal came out, it's like I had beard sponsors before, and a lot of the products I liked, some of them, and some of them I didn't. So I researched it and looked at it, and then I started making my own beard oil, and then it kind of turned into well, hey man, maybe I'll do my own brand. And I had a guy that I trusted, and I have an accountant, and I have a lawyer that and I know a lot of people with beards. So it was I'll test them out. Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And then, I just researched why don't you grow a beard? Why do you grow a beard? Oh, because it itches, Well, it itches because, I get a breakout and I do this. And it's okay, well, you start researching the essential oils, and you research the jojoba oil and coconut oil and how they're good for your skin and this and this and this. Oh, and you can make it antimicrobial and antifungal. I was like, well, shoot, I'll run with this and come up with something that I'll wear that I like. And so I came up with a sweet smell, a citrus blend, and a manly smell, like bourbon and sandalwood. And so I did, and it's just it's there's my oil.
Yep.
I have a whole bunch of stuff, but it's I started using it, and then I kind of got into making balms and looked at how balms were made and what they did, and and the thinner balm and the thicker balm and what people liked. And barbering now is a huge thing.
Yeah.
It is a thing to become a barber. And just so happens one of the top barber schools in the entire country is in like downtown Salt Lake, about an hour from me.
Oh,
So I went there and I asked them about products and what you use and what you look for. And they were like, well, I like a thick balm because when guys get beards that are longer, it helps tame it,
yep.
not to mention, there's a few things I like and a few things I don't. So I just took notes on all that stuff and I came up with the best balm I could come up with. And so I went with a thicker balm and we started making it. And next, it was like, okay, well, I want to do a wash, and Defense Soap makes a really good body wash to help combat
Yeah.
ringworm, impetigo, and mat funguses. So I was like, well, I'll use some of the ingredients they have and make a beard wash. This is antimicrobial and antifungal, but smells better. And I really like the tingly stuff. And I was like, well, how do you make it tingly? And man, I called this guy and called that guy and looked at how people made stuff. And I was like, all right, so they use spearmint, eucalyptus, and orange.
Yeah.
So I went and looked at that stuff. And I mean, I bought it just from a Whole Foods place and it was super expensive. And I'm like, well, shit, man, that ain't going to work. And, and one thing led to another. And I came up with, the mix that I wanted. And then we decided to come up with a brand name. And then one of my close friends who's recently passed away in a tragic accident gave me some ideas on the business side of things. And I took all of that into consideration. And then I couldn't do it on my own. So
Right.
one of my closest friends, one of my first boxing students, and my insurance agent became my business partner. And, it's just like we have kids the same age, they play together. And I trust him. I mean, number
Yep.
one, I trust him. So I was like, what do you think about this? And he's like, yeah, I'm all for it. Cause he's built and sold a bunch of companies, and man, he's had like dudes rip him off. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, he's like, well,
Knows the
I'm not
game.
going to get into business. Yeah. With somebody I don't trust. And he said, if we do it, we got to do it ourselves. And I mean, within the first launch of it, we became a company, and then the first launch and kind of got into a barber shop. Well, that barber shop ended up like paying their rent and making money on top of just our beard oil sales in the
Wow.
first 3 or 4 weeks. And so I said, well, we're on to something. And I did it the same way. I said, I know you guys like me and you follow me, but I want your honest opinion.
Yeah.
And the same thing with your clients. And I said, so just take it, use it like for a back bar and see what people say and what you say, and you use it. And so they did it, and they were like, man, this stuff's great. Can we make an order, and they order like 20 or 30 units, and then 2 or 3 weeks later they call, and I'm thinking like maybe they're going to give me some issues they had with it or something. And
Yeah.
they're like, hey, we need 12 of this, 12 of this, 12 of this, 12 of this, and 12 of that. And I was like, holy shit. Called them up.
Wow.
Hey man, let's start making some, and next thing you know, it was like, all right, let's do an online presence. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lot of guys that have followings, but I didn't want to like, just give it to them and have them, do it. I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure it worked first. And then I
Right.
gave it to some people that I thought would give me their honest opinion. And I said, if you like it, send it out. Don't feel pressure to send it out, but if you like it, send it out on social media for me, And so a few guys did it. And then now we have like return customers that are coming back and purchasing every month.
And what's the website? It's oldabeardcompany.com, right?
Yep. oldabeardco.com.
That's it.
And
CO.
yeah. And so it's a small, it's me, my wife, Cade, and his wife. And so they ship it out. We put it together. Yeah, we make all the labels. I put all the boxes together. I make all the product. And so it's just, we kind of have like a little rendezvous where we get into the beard factory, because we have an area that it was a salon, a small salon, but it's clean. It has like granite countertops, and the whole room is just like set up for our little beard project.
Yeah.
So we'll go in there for 14, 15 hours and we'll make, product and because some of it takes time. Like you have to let it sit in the bottle for 4 or 5 days. It's like all the beard oil sits for 5 days so it can blend and get the smell we want. And the same thing with the wash. It has to sit for about a week before we can even put it into a bottle.
Oh, wow.
And then the labeling process is even more tedious. So it's been really fun. I mean, it's not making killer money or anything. Like we haven't paid ourselves, but I can tell you right now, I've turned down like 3 lump sums of money of people who wanted to invest. And I just was like,
Whoa.
yeah. One dude was like, what could you do with 100 grand? And I was like, to tell you the truth, like, I could probably do a lot with it, but, I appreciate it, but we want to keep it small and we want to grow it.
Yeah.
And I did a couple interviews, and like one guy, he's going to school, and this group of people are getting their MBAs, and they used Old Abe as their like their project, like their graduation project. And so they did a whole, like a marketing team did a whole like semester of work on Old Abe and this and that. And so we got a ton of information from that. And it's just like, it's really grown into something cool. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. I'm glad it's doing well. I'm glad things are going good for you. You seem to be doing all right. And on the surface, at least from all your social networking, it seems like camp did great, and you're on track
Yeah.
to win another fight.
Yeah. So that's just it. I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm content. I've, it's like I'm coming up on, I went to a business meeting. So the UFC got bought out.
Right.
And they put together this business meeting, and man, it was just for the veterans. And there was only like 15 or 16 of us there. And it was all people that had like multiple years. And, they said, hey, like they helped us out with, ideas with after, are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? And great information. And it's kind of like the finding the people to do the things that we used to do, like booking flights and doing this and doing that has kind of been a little bit ski-wampus, but it seems like things are going in a good direction.
Okay.
At least from my viewpoint, but it's kind of like, you never know. Like my main focus is on keeping my close network, improving as a martial artist, because that's what I love. But also too, like, building the Court McGee brand. So when I choose to walk away from this sport, that I have something to transition to, which is going to be a challenge in itself. But
Court, thanks so much for coming on here, man. It was a great half hour sitting down here talking with you, man. It was awesome to catch up on everything, and I didn't realize like how good the beard company was doing, because I just see the Instagram post. I don't see the actual, hey, we're here for 14 hours, 2 days this week, trying to get enough product out. So that's awesome.
Cool.
That really is cool. I actually got to place an order. I'm getting low, so I got to place an order here pretty quick. It'll be like another week and a half. We place another order. So
fantastic.
Thanks so much, Court. I appreciate it, but have a great rest of your training camp. Have a great New Year's, and then we'll talk to you again later.
Yeah. Hey, man. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Thanks so much, Court. I appreciate it.
Okay. See you, man. Have a good day.
You too.